Pickleball. Now, you've heard the word, or maybe you've even seen the courts, because they are popping up everywhere. Public parks, converted tennis courts. We see them now in shopping malls, in driveways. We had one in our garage for quite some time. The game has gone crazy. And it was once viewed as a pastime for retirees, I think, but that time is long past. This has exploded into a mainstream phenomenon. And here's something you have to respect. It held the title of fastest growing U.S. sport for 5 straight years now. This is a big deal. And it's about to go through some significant changes. So if you're new to it, we're going to introduce you. Or if you're a veteran, we're going to give you a little teaser on some things headed your way. This is something you're going to want to know about. Welcome to the Current Temp. Today we are checking the temp on pickleball. Thank you to Lexus of Memphis. As always, so honored to be working with such a quality group of men and women and an unbelievable product. I just love the fact that we are able to partner with Lexus. And a huge thank you to my guest today, Randy Stafford of Stafford Paddles. Randy is a respected and well-known figure here in the Memphis, Collierville area. He produces paddles that are widely known. We're going to talk more about that as well, Stafford Paddles. But Randy, I'm going to jump right into this with an introduction to the sport, and you jump in as I'm going through this, all right? Because I did a little research today. Mm-hmm. You tell me if you think I'm right or not. I'm going to start with how pickleball got its name, all right? This is what I read. 3 dads invented this game in the mid-'60s near Seattle as a way to get their family together. They were their family. They didn't want them to be bored. They were coming up with this sport. They tried to invent a game using what they had on hand. Ended up being something like a badminton net, which they lowered, ping pong paddles, and a wiffle ball. No?
Not ping pong paddles. They went straight to making some paddles. Okay, that still works with me, but this is the part that I really loved, and this rings true to me, that one of the wives of one of these men was a competitive rower. Okay? And in rowing, whenever you have a rowing team that's made up of oarsmen or oarswomen from other boats, like you mix all these parts together, that's called a pickle boat. Correct. And that this wife said, you know what, you guys have made this mishmash sport out of all these parts around here. We're going to call this now pickle ball. So it said that they dispelled the rumor that it was named after their cat or dog, that they said that came later, that the wife of one of these gentlemen said this is like a pickle boat, which is a crew term. Have you ever heard that? Well, absolutely. And for a long time, it was thought to be the dog. But after research, it was shown that I believe I've heard a little slightly different story than what you're saying, that it wasn't the wife. Maybe she was an accomplished rower, but it was their son. Okay. That was at a college in the Northwest, in 1965 in Bainbridge Island. This was their vacation island they would go to. And these were some well-to-do state senator from that area. And they would go and spend the summer out on Bainbridge Island, but then would get bored, and what are we going to do? So that's where it was born. But I believe, and I may be wrong, because there is a little bit of
mystery.
That's right. But I think you're exactly right, is that I believe the son was rowing for one of the local colleges, and that they knew that the following boat carrying the supplies, or maybe an alternate rower, was in the pickle boat.
Okay. Well,
that's where it came from.
And I think that's made me happy. So now we've gone from getting the name to the pickleball court itself, which I have up here next to us. So for those who aren't familiar, is it the same size as a tennis court? Smaller?
No. It's 44 feet long by 20 feet wide.
Okay.
And if you come from racquetball, it's almost the same size as a racquetball court, which is 40 by 20. But luckily, it's the same size as a badminton court. So obviously, because it was a badminton concrete pad they had laid behind their house. So that's why it ended up being 44 by 20.
And this area in the middle is called the kitchen.
Right.
Do we know why it's called the kitchen?
Yeah, and there was several renditions of it. The men, there's a lot of jokes that, you could make up.
Sure.
With a beer, I'll go over with you exactly some of these other things we won't talk about. But it was like, we don't go in the kitchen. And so that's where it came from.
Okay, all right.
And so the kitchen used to be only like right now it's 7 feet from the net on each side. So your opponents basically are trying to work to get to 14 feet away. Well, originally it was like 5 feet, but they had one of the founding members of pickleball was very tall, and it wasn't fair because he could reach all the way over to the net because the line was only 5 feet away and hit the ball before it really crossed the net. So that's why they moved it to 7 feet.
Okay.
Correct. So they kind of by design, they adjusted the sport and figured it out as they went along.
Now, here's why that's important, friends. All right, stay with me because we're about to make all this come together for you. We're talking about the name and these interesting rules and how it all came together. Check this out. In 2024, approximately 20 million U.S. people play pickleball. That was approximation. Same thing if you go globally. So this is not just a U.S. phenomenon. They are saying that conservatively, over 50 million players around the globe and growing. Now, here's the one that impresses me the most. Over 1 million players under the age of 18. I think that's a huge statistic because not only people are thinking it's not just retirees. You've got people under 18 in this next statistic that the largest age group is 25 to 34 years old. And on top of that, it's pretty balanced, basically 60% male, 40% female. So you've got this sport that is now easily accessible. You can play with some basic equipment until you get better. And we're seeing these courts come up everywhere. What would you say is the draw? What is, I keep hearing it's relatively easy.
Well, it's not only easy, but it's fun to play.
Yeah.
Okay. If you don't,
I think fun is critical.
If you don't get hung up on the rules in the first hour, like forget the rules if you're a brand new player and you just want to go out and hit the ball. Don't even think about the rules because the people are going to stumble on the rules. So just hit the ball back and forth and almost anybody can do it.
I got you.
But let me go back to some of the stats you were talking about. For instance, there's 20 million, probably now 30 million players over in 3 different countries, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Thailand. And for instance, Malaysia, the government has institutionalized the sport, and they're converting tennis courts, basketball courts to pickleball courts, and they have social programs going on to get their kids out of the television away from the video games, and they're giving it away for free all over the country.
Really?
Building thousands of courts and going to use pickleball as a way to, I guess, groom their young kids away from video games and into more of a social sport.
What a great idea.
Yeah, and Malaysia's taken over that. You take Thailand and Vietnam, it's like it's grown up in the last 2 years in like the main, in Saigon, there's like 50 clubs.
Okay. It's just exploding.
It's just
everywhere.
Absolutely exploding. There's clubs everywhere.
Listen, and really, don't get bored with this conversation. Think about the fact that it is spanning every age demographic and every continent. Yeah. I mean, really, when you start thinking about it, we're talking, it's like Elvis's music. It went everywhere. All right, now what we're going to jump into now is something you know a lot about, and that is the making of a paddle.
Right.
And where that's leading us next. So I've got a graphic up here. It looks like a black bird. I was trying to find some good images of some of your paddles. Tell us a little bit about the basics of how a paddle, what goes into a paddle?
Well, first of all, right now, 98% of all paddles are made in China.
Okay.
That's good because they make a very good paddle. It's bad because they all come from China and not U.S.-based. They had invested heavily into tennis and racquetball. And so they had a lot of these infrastructure of capital investments in machines to be able to do this. So they converted over from ping pong, tennis, and racquetball into pickleball. It was not a hard conversion. And but basically it's a honeycomb core.
Okay.
And it's, for the most part, it's the skins or the sides on both parts of the core are comprised of carbon fiber and a polymer, meaning a plastic that is infused in all the fibers of a carbon fiber. It can be fiberglass. There are some other materials that are used, like hemp, but typically all your better paddles use carbon fiber. So doing different methods, they infuse the carbon fibers with polymers, and then it's epoxied onto the core. And it comes out of a mold, the correct shape. Just has to be finished, sanded, and then the graphics put on it, then a bumper and a handle, and you have a pickleball paddle.
Show us a few of your paddles.
Yeah. So what we do different here in Collierville, we actually have a plant that we built in Collierville, 2 blocks off the square.
Right.
And so we manufacture paddles there ourselves. And ours is a slightly different process. These paddles are because we don't use any epoxy between the skins and the core. We thermally fuse them. So they're never going to come apart. It's not like Chinese paddles that do delaminate. Ours never do.
Okay.
We chose that way because their method is a lot harder to do and a lot more capital extensive. So we like the way we make them. They're great paddles. And
how long does it take to make one?
We have probably about 40 minutes in each paddle.
Okay.
From start to finish.
I've seen your setup. It's an automated. You've got this thing humming.
Well, we built all of our equipment. My son Stephen Stafford. We started this business about 11 years ago.
Designed your own equipment.
He's right out of college, and he designed the equipment, and we built it all ourselves because you couldn't buy this equipment.
Right.
So we manufactured the equipment in order to manufacture the paddles. So it's been a kind of a neat journey. We never were certain exactly where it would take us to be, but we like making paddles. Like this is a Vulcan paddle that we had a exclusive contract for them for 5 years when we first got started. So we made all of their paddles for the most part, and we rode that wave for a long time, and we learned a lot. So, but since that time, China has come on very strong, and it's hard to compete with China. Well, we can't do that,
right?
Because their paddles can be made for such less money than what ours are. So that's why I knew for a fact that pickleball does have a problem, and it has to do with noise.
Okay, let's get right into that.
So
I've got another picture here.
Yeah.
Tell what the noise problem is.
Well, that's the problem.
And I guess when you multiply that with players all over the place, and we have things outside, is that the issue that it's disturbing?
Yeah, it's a little
the piece?
clicking noise. Now, pickleball players like the noise. It's the players, it's the neighbors that live around the club.
Right.
They don't like hearing that sound 6 o'clock in the morning and 10 o'clock at night.
Right.
Can't blame them. And so I knew there was a need for quiet paddles. And I knew that was early on. So we spent about 2 years while we were still making other paddles for other vendors, kind of like brand of white label paddles.
Okay.
We still make paddles for other paddle manufacturers right now. But I really wanted to do a quiet paddle. We like inventing things. So after a couple of years, we finally came out with what was the first hard face carbon fiber surface that's a quiet paddle. And you can kind of tell the difference in it.
Yeah, that is not as loud. I don't know if you can catch that on these mics, but that second one was not as loud.
And there's another one.
Even more muffled.
That's right. This one has like a carpet on it.
Oh, yeah, it is.
And that actually, that carpet, and we built the insides of this paddle, and we muffled the sound inside. Then you put this carpet on it, and it's very quiet.
What's this called?
This is called the Whisper Paddle, and it's a company out of Canada, and we make it for them. And I tell you, it's a great playing paddle. I mean,
interesting.
Even because it's got a carpet on it, this is a fun. The ball comes off very fast, has a lot of spin. It's not USA approved for tournament play, but it's USA approved for the quiet category.
Okay.
So USAP, that's the governing body of pickleball, United States Pickleball Association, deemed that we need quiet paddles, and we were already well into working that direction 2 years before they announced that.
Okay.
So about 2.5 years ago, they started a quiet category. And so that's why we were well onto it at that point.
So there's now an actual category.
That's right.
Designed for quieter paddles.
USA Pickleball Quiet.
Okay. All right.
That's what that is. So for certain cities, even in Arizona 10 years ago, I'd go out and play in the Nationals out there. I've been playing about 14 years. And there was certain condo facilities there that had like 10 or 12 courts. Phoenix area is really where the hotbed was fueled by the retirement age people. Okay. But there were certain ones that they only allowed quieter paddles, even though they were not designed for quiet. So it was already, that revolution was already starting, because certain paddles are just inherently quieter or inherently louder than other paddles.
All right, now let's dive in to something that fascinated me. You gave me a brief synopsis of this, and you used a word that I can't remember. You're going to use it in a minute.
Okay.
But it's where we're going next, and that is the fact that when you use a paddle over time, you begin to get a breakdown internally, which literally improves its velocity.
Well, and Joey, it's a great point you bring that up right now. It's good timing. We call that paddles that have aged to benefit.
Aged to benefit. That's
okay.
it. They've aged to benefit.
So basically, if you take a conventional paddle, here's another Vulcan paddle that we made for a yacht club in Hot Springs.
Okay.
But if you hit a ball on the same spot over and over and over again with a Chinese paddle that has got a glue line between the skin and the core, it'll eventually either crush the core or break the glue line. So now you've gone from a very hard paddle to one that has a slight trampoline. And so that propels the ball faster.
So it almost seems counterintuitive, but what you're saying is breaking down the core makes it hit it harder.
Well, it doesn't make it hit it harder. It trampolines the ball out faster.
Okay, it gives it more velocity.
Coming off, correct. The ball coming off at the same speed, coming in at, let's say, 35 miles an hour on this paddle, because it's hard, is going to come off a certain speed. But if you have a trampoline effect, now you're getting into like a racquetball racket or tennis strings that has a trampoline effect. Not quite as much as that, but you're heading that direction. So it hits the paddle that's aged to benefit, and it'll push it in more, and it'll propel it out faster.
By the way, this is a good opportunity for me to tell my wife I'm also aged to benefit, just so you understand.
I've used that line a bunch.
I'm taking
Trust
that
me,
one.
Joe, it doesn't help.
Now, explain to our viewers why that's a big deal. That you and I can go to a tournament. I've got a brand new paddle. Yours is broken in and is aged to benefit. Why is that not good?
Well, you don't want to. People travel all over the country going to tournaments. And like USAPA, they have about 150 sanctioned tournaments. And being sanctioned means that the court size is exactly the same or better that everywhere you go. The balls are a certain type ball. You have a referee. So it's everything you want to expect when you travel because you're trying to take the court, the paddles, and the ball out of the mix. And so then when we play against each other, it's just me against you.
It's skill to skill.
That's right.
Right.
So you don't want to fly to Chicago and go and spend all that time and money, and then you get blown off the court with a person that's playing with a totally delaminated paddle that's literally hitting the ball 40% faster.
Say that again. How much harder or faster can it come off?
Well, it may only be 10%, but it might be 40%.
Wow.
And what the difference really is that you can be at the net with a delaminated paddle, and a ball comes at you real quick. You don't even have to swing the paddle. You just hit it like that, and the ball just zooms off.
The trampoline.
And you can't react quick enough.
Right.
Therein lies the problem.
So you're not playing apples to apples.
No.
It's almost like having a corked bat.
That's exactly right.
Right.
And in all sports, there's testing equipment. All sports have it now, except for pickleball. So it's just now coming on is equipment to field test paddles. And so I know that's what we're coming around to is that USAPA has come to us. We have some brilliant engineers in our company between Dan Roberts and Stephen Stafford. And they have contracted with us to develop field testing equipment for the sport of pickleball. So next year, starting 2026, all their sanctioned tournaments in the amateur brackets, the pros are already using some very expensive equipment to test in pro events. Now they'll start using this equipment we're developing. But next year, all amateur events and sanctioned tournaments, and then other tournaments will come along also, will be using field testing equipment to make certain it's skill against skill, not a problem with paddles.
This is going to have a huge impact. A huge impact.
No, it is because it's rampant in the industry. And a lot of people don't know that it's happened to their paddle, so they're innocent.
Right.
But on the other hand, there's some people that change their paddle to benefit on purpose.
Right.
By taking a lacrosse ball. I don't want to teach people how to do it, but crushing the core, even though the skin is still glued to it, you can crush the core and cause some of that. You can spray surface texture on it just for the game to give you more spin. So it's a small number of people that do it, but it has been done.
But what I'm hearing is, and you talk as much what you're comfortable with, this is something that is a known issue, and we are heading in a direction right now. It's already wheels are in motion to begin addressing this. And and if that is the case, it's going to change what you see when you go into Sports Authority or a Dick's Sporting Goods. It's going to change everything because there's going to have to be a standard.
Well, there are standards, and that's a very good point. They're already all very stringent standards for, and I'll give you another example. And this is real common. A particular paddle company will order, let's say, 10,000 paddles from a Chinese manufacturer. There's probably 6 or 7 manufacturers at least. And they'll receive, they have to have, of that 10,000, they'll receive some prototypes, and they'll go back and forth and build what they want and design what they want. And then when they're satisfied with that, China will send to them 9 paddles. And those will go to USAP testing facility. And they will go through very stringent tests. And it may take 2 months to have the test performed. And you either pass or you fail. So those paddles, once they're approved at this third-party company that USAPA is contracted with, then those paddles, they go to storage. So they can be referred to back later on if there's a problem. Well, now the other 9,000 plus paddles they receive from China, are they exactly the same paddles or not? See, right now there's no way very few companies can afford the $1 million, 150,000 plus instruments to be able to test those paddles.
Right.
Very few, only 2 or 3 have it at the most. So all these other paddle companies, and there's 600 of them right now, they receive the paddles from China, and they don't know if they're the same or not.
Right.
So they get them out in the field. They go to the stores, they go to the clubs, they're sold direct. And then USAPA, doing diligence, may go and buy one on a shelf or may go and take one out of a tournament and test it.
To test it.
And sometimes it's not the same.
So let me ask you this. For the average player who may end up playing in an amateur tournament, are you going to have to, like you have your trusted paddle, will you have to have that tested and verified, or will you have to buy another different?
Well, and I'll close with this because we want to get into that on another show.
Yep.
So what'll happen is that they'll check their paddle, and we've already been doing this at tournaments.
Okay.
It's a known entity. I went myself and Dan traveled to Austin, Texas 2 months ago with a bunch of our instruments. We've been building instruments now for over a year.
Okay.
And so this was the first tournament. It was the senior pros, and it was about 187, 50-plus senior pros. Now, they're playing for money. They're also, most of it, for fun, but this is a passion and a career for them. And so they want everything to be fair. And before this point, they came to me and said, we've heard that you've been building instruments. Can you come and test our paddles? Because some of them are not fair. So we drove down there and tested 186 paddles a day before the tournament. Well, we tested about 500 paddles. So then we put a little color code on the panel, and it was either green, yellow, or red. And if it was green, it passed our test fine. And if it was yellow, it was close, maybe not play with it for the next tournament. And if it was red, we stuck it in the back and we didn't give it back to them till after the tournament. So they knew in that tournament that they traveled from all over the country, that it was going to be fair, skill to skill, not skill to paddle. Okay,
listen, friends, we're going to be delicate with this because right here in Collierville, Tennessee, you may not know it, but you've got a high-quality paddle manufacturer who is also involved in this sport, taking it to the next level, which there will be announcements coming out very shortly. And Randy has committed to coming back here on the Current Temp so we can talk more in depth when all of this is being released, so it all makes sense. But what a fascinating inside look at what is the hottest thing going around the country. StaffordPaddles.com, is that the website?
That is one of them, that's right.
Is that the one you would, because I'm saying Christmas is coming up.
We manufacture white labels for bunch of other companies.
By the way, white labels means they make paddles and someone else puts their name on it.
And that's like this one right here.
That you got right.
And we have an in-house paddle, Stafford Paddles. It's our overspin.
Oh yeah, okay.
And this one it's got, feel the grit on that. It's got a lot of grit.
Oh
on
yeah.
That. And so, but we do blemishes. We have mistakes, very small mistakes that might happen on paddles. And like this paddle right here will sell for about $200. Okay. And that's not expensive. That's expensive, but it's not the high end for paddles. But we sell them out our back door for a lot less than that.
What's a high end? What are some of these things?
Well, Selkirk has a $333 foam paddle. It's a great paddle. And that's probably the height of it right now. But to get a good foam paddle or a fourth gen foam, kind of partial foam around the edges and honeycomb core, you're going to spend $180 to $250 on that paddle.
So if someone is seeing this and thinking, hey, Christmas is coming up, I'd like to talk about a blemished one.
Right. And we sell those for $100.
How do they get in touch with you?
Well, they just... they can go to...
Is the website good?
Yeah, the website's good, or they can Google Statera Paddles, is what I would
Spell
do.
that, Statera.
It's Statera, Statera Paddles. That's Latin for balance.
Statera
Paddles.
Statera Paddles.
In Collierville.
Or you could also go to Stafford Paddles, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Because you've got to contact us for them.
That's right.
I hope you're tracking this. Randy Stafford of Stafford Paddles. There's a couple ways to find it if you Google it, Stafford Paddles or Statera. Send them a little note. They sell slightly blemished versions of these $200 to $300 paddles at a huge discount. And what a fascinating story. I know you can't listen. I could talk to you for a couple of hours. I know you, like my father-in-law, had a racquetball history. I know you guys have been playing this for a long time. You've got a court on premises, which I've been blessed enough to play. I'm terrible, but I have played before. And I am fascinated about this. You're talking about the trampoline effect. It reminds me of runners. I used to run a lot. How your shoes start to lose. You're supposed to replace your running shoes, but they don't give you the trampoline effect. They go worse. Paddles are the opposite. You get an unfair advantage, but that's a known entity that is being worked on right now. Mm-hmm. All right. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with anybody?
Well, if you thought about you need a fun sport to go play, meet a lot of people, the social aspect of pickleball is like unbelievable.
It's the new golf.
And it's real inexpensive to play. Normally you can go to one of the churches or YMCA or a community center and pay $1 or $2 to play. And we have 3 nice clubs here, public clubs also. But it's once you get into it, the problem is that it becomes your passion and it takes over your life. And you just want to play all the time.
Well, and I'll say this, if anyone out there who hasn't played, what I've noticed is how any skill level gets out there and has fun.
And that's a very good point, because whether you're beginners I've seen housewives that have come to me and bought paddles and they literally could not connect with the ball. Okay. And they played for 3 or 4 years now, and they're 3-0 players now, and they love it and they play every day.
Okay.
And they've never played any sport in their life.
I didn't even think about this till right now. Here's what we're going to do in the closing. This man is a professional. I know he and his wife give lessons and teach people. For anyone who out there who's a pickleball pro or wants to be, what advice would you give them? What pro tip would you give them?
And that's an excellent question, because you take some of the top players here in town, like Johan and Dean Petty, they're masters at tennis. And they look at pickleball such that it's so much to it that even at their level, they're still learning and still crafting their game to be a better game. So it doesn't matter what level you're at. If you're a 2-5 and you just learn now to keep the dink shots low, away from the line, right over the net, or you're a Dean Petty or Johan, and you're still improving your game. And that's why it's such an incredible game. Okay. Always learning the nuances. Hey, listen, a huge thank you to my man, Randy Stafford. Another a rousing round of applause for Alexis of Memphis for being a part of this. What a fascinating conversation. And friends, if you've got a question, if you got a thought you'd like for me to pass along to Randy, or if you got a suggestion for a future episode, email me. That's the Current Temp at gmail.com. And as always, you can watch this on Facebook. You can subscribe to the Current Temp on YouTube or on Spotify. Lots of ways to listen and watch and get some inside information about
5 years running, fastest growing sport in the U.S. and going crazy around the world. Randy, thank you for being here.
My honor to be here. Thank you, Joe.
Have a great day.